I know at some point people are going to begin to ask me, like, why are you sharing your story? Why did you put out a documentary? Why do you share some of the things that you've experienced that maybe even still kind of make you cringe when you're sharing it? Right now, I feel like it's a perfect opportunity to answer that.
You are now listening to the voice of Tamar with Vanessa Santiago.
Time is the only thing that you can't buy, and so I'm just going to jump right into the topic that I'm going to address today. And so I know at some point people are going to begin to ask me, like, why are you sharing your story? Why did you put out a documentary? Why do you share some of the things that you've experienced that maybe even still kind of make you cringe when you're sharing it? Right now, I feel like it's a perfect opportunity to answer that question, and the reason is because I hate. This isn't skipping, that's me saying hate a bunch of times. What violation, rape, trauma, and molestation, child pornography, all of that stuff. I hate what it does to people. I have experienced my own personal trauma, and I have seen so many stories. I have heard so many stories. It seems like some of the effects of being violated are consistent. I'm going to share some of the things that I have seen people go through as a result of being violated. One of those things is that your identity is fractured. What do I mean by that? So some people are violated at a very young age, or maybe even at an older age. But what I've noticed with people who've been violated at a very young age is that they have not had the time to develop and grow and figure out the things that they like, the things that they love, personality, their quirks, like those specific things, right? And so when that trauma happens, it in some ways kind of weaves itself into the character and personality of a person. And how does this happen? You're probably asking. Well, you know, if you are a child, in many ways you're supposed to be protected. In many ways you're supposed to be shielded from the world and some of the ugly things that happen in it, right? And so what violation does is that it kind of snatches away the innocence that you carry, and you see life in a different way. And so at times people who have been violated have a very hard time trusting people, have a very hard time trusting authority figures. Why is this? Because nobody was there to protect them, whether it was by way of negligence or whether it was by way of whatever. Because I've heard so many stories. I've seen parents give them to predators. I have seen parents violate their children, and that's another thing, right? So I think that one of the things that happens is that nobody wants to talk about this topic. I feel like we fail to talk about violation and rape and molestation and incest and sex in general in the church. If you know me, you know that I identify myself as a Christian, and in my personal experience, nobody ever talked to me about sex, right? It was just, don't do it until you get married. That was the only thing that I had ever heard about sex, until somebody decided to introduce me to sex by way of game. And so I think that oftentimes predators will find innocent children and they'll say, hey, let's play a game, and before you know it, kids are engaging in sexual acts that have been decorated as a game. And so one of the reasons why I have decided to do these kind of things is so that I can, I guess, open people's minds up to the idea that if you don't decide to talk to your child or loved ones or whatever about sex, guess what? Somebody else is going to do that. And so why not get ahead of the game and ask God for wisdom on how you could talk to your children about sex before somebody else decides to do it by way of either porn or something they see on TV, or being in school, or some little boy who is probably experienced some kind of sexual something, introducing it to your daughter, and because she likes him or is insecure or whatever, she just kind of goes with the flow. So that's one of the reasons why I've decided to talk about this. I notice at times too that women who have been violated, they have this scent that like predators just notice it and they see it, right? And so for me personally, I was violated by over 7 people. Now all of those were not rape, but they were some form of violation, some form of molestation, some form of fondling. I was also a victim of child pornography. What that did to my mind at the time was that it made me wonder, well, did I ask for this? Because it happened to me more than one time, right? Or this idea that because you're dressing a certain way, you've in some way invited forms of violation. And so in the process of sharing my story, I would love to dismantle the idea that you asked for it. I think that predators are predators and they know what to look for. But what happens when you decide to heal is that you kind of carry around a magnifying glass of what that thing looks like, right? So I can tell And I think that a lot of it plays a part with just discernment too, but like I know what it looks like. I can kind of sense at times when someone has been violated. At times you can tell by the way they look, by the way they dress. Maybe they're wearing clothes that's way too big because they don't want to draw attention to themselves, their posture, the lack of confidence that they have. And so those are one of the things that I really would love for people to begin to identify and see, so that they can know, like, this violation that happened to you that you feel like doesn't really matter and isn't affecting you in your today really is, because some of your character, some of your personality, some of your ways of being have been influenced by a violation. You are afraid to go out in the middle of the night out of fear that somebody's going to snatch you up again. That's as a result of the trauma that you've experienced. You are hypersexual and wanting to sleep around, but still feeling empty at the end of the night, because in some ways you feel like even that brief moment of having sex with someone is validating you and making you feel love, only for you to be empty again. And so what do you do so that you can feel full again? And I don't think that relationships and men and things are going to give you that validation that you need, but that emptiness that you feel was something that was planted in you as somebody snatched your innocence or took away something from you that you decided not to give to them. And so that's one of the biggest things that I hate about violation, is that people think that, oh, this is just how I am. I'm introvert. I don't really like people. I don't really trust people. No, something happened to you that removed that sense of trust from people, that you won't even extend just a little bit. It's shaping how you dress or what you wear, or girl, don't wear red because that's jealous. Like Jezebel wears red, or that's a seductive color. Like parts of you are very insecure. Parts of you feel very numb. And what that does at times is that it attracts the kind of people that will take advantage of you, that will know that you don't expect much because you don't expect anything. And so they can feel like they can treat you any type of way. At some point in this, I will begin to share what my relationships look like. I was married very early. I was divorced early. I had 2 children. I ran away from home. There were so many things that I feel like, some of them were personal choices, but I feel like some of my wounds influenced some of the decisions that I've made. And so I would love to highlight that as well. I think that fear, shame, and condemnation are something that kind of gets draped over you as a result of being violated. And so that's something I would love to dismantle as well. Those kind of things I would love to dismantle in the process of sharing my story. I want to give you the courage to confess what you've been through so that you can only grow from there. I hope that you stay tuned and are willing to journey with me as I share.